Welcome to Lessons from the Woodlot. We're happy to have you guys with us today. Thank you so much to all the fans. I mean, it's been really cool to see the subscribers growing. I believe we've doubled our subscribers in the last week, 7 days since last Thursday. It is mid-October. The score, if you're at home, is still 21-0. Mark is slightly sidelined right now. He's got a couple tags, but he's waiting for a special deer. So while Mark's on the bench, I have a chance to catch up. I'm pretty excited. All three of my shooters are home on the farms where they belong, nice and safe. Mark is still waiting for his main number one target to show up at the farm. And so things are exciting. Weather, we were all just looking at it, and I know Jake was excited. Mark was excited. I'm like, what's happening? And then, like, we got a big front coming at the end of this week. Looks like we're finally going to get out of the 80s and be back into the 60s. And so I think there's a lot of good hunting ahead. Remember, Lessons from the Woodlot was built by Mark and myself to really empower the next generation of hunters. A lot of these lessons, if you grew up without a father or you just have never, anybody in your family ever wanted to hunt, you can go back through. All of these lessons are all on the YouTube page. They're all there. We took some questions, which were awesome. We had some great questions. We're going to be answering questions today out on the Mississippi. And so we'll do some more of those. And then I know we were talking with Jake. We're going to get that subscribed and it kind of put into a playlist where a lot of these tips and things, we put out the tip this week on the milkweed, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. And so we'll have that kind of organized in a place for you as the viewers to be able to go to it as a reference point when you find us. But right now, for everyone on YouTube that is liked and subscribed, I'm liking your chances of winning this farm. Because right now it's about a 1 in 700 chance. So we really like that, and we're real happy with the subscriber growth. We're real happy that you guys are getting something from the podcast. And we're especially happy when we see the feedback. There's a lot of people there. We know one guy was really unhappy with the noise, and so we have spray foamed with 3 inches of closed cell insulation the podcast studio, and we believe now we have nailed down our audio. So, again, it's a new podcast. It was really for you guys. Mark and I are not professional podcasters. We saw the need to get the information to you. So forgive us or give us a little slack, if you will, when it comes to everything being perfect. But we're getting better. And of course, Jake was a big part of getting him in here and getting the production side, the cameras and everything tuned up. So thank you so much to Jake, because that really has helped since we brought him in. And other than that, today we are going to be talking about Egress. And this was one of my favorite rides with Mark. And when he told me the story, I'm like, man, we got to start keeping track of these. And so this is really where the list started on my phone, was with this one. It was such a great story, and we wanted to share that one with you today. And and it's important when we talk about hunting on these farms. It's so important to get in and get out. And I never understood the importance of it. And Mark will tell you, and listen, again, it's 21-0. When Mark came to my farm in Maryland, he's like, yeah, you'd be amazed how many people I get to their farm. And, as I'm doing consults, and, they got this big, beautiful tree stand on an elevated tower right in the middle of the field. And he's like, it's super easy to get in, but how do you get out? And all I could think was, oh, shit, I've got this big redneck blind on a 15-foot tower in the middle of a field. Mark's going to see this tomorrow. So I dreaded it all day, night long. But Mark was very gracious when he was there. And so he never makes you feel like you don't know what you're doing. But I was one of those people, and I did not understand the importance of Egress. I didn't understand why when I started, the food plots were full. And by, the second or third week in the season, there was 2 or 3 deer coming to them. So we're really going to break that conversation down for you guys today. And remember, like and subscribe on YouTube. You're automatically entered to win the farm that we give away. There's no cost to you. You don't have to pony up any money or buy any raffle tickets. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mark, and let's get started on Egress.
Yes, sir. So, and I know it somewhat sounds like we're kind of beating a dead horse here, but it's such a powerful part of especially the hunting the mature deer. It can't be said enough. It can't be pressed into your mind hard enough because it is that important. So many of the setups that I see, again, they just don't give that deer a second thought about when it's time to leave, when it's time to go. The epitome of hunting pressure is alerting the deer to your presence. That's what hunting pressure is. Now, that could be done in the stand where they seen you for movement if you didn't have enough cover or whatever might be the case. It could be where they smelled your entrance and exit. They smelled you in your stand, or most of the time that pressure is applied because they've got everything else kind of down, and in theory, and in a afternoon, if you're hunting over a food source of some kind, usually you can get in fine. They're usually in their bed. You can normally, if you've thought out your, setup, you can get into it without being seen. But what happens if the deer that you're after doesn't show? And that particular day, and I say all the time, listen, all we got to be right is one time. He's got to be right every time. But how we up those odds on that one time being right is not by alerting him and every other deer in that place to our presence. I always say hunt like a ghost. Well, and that's a podcast coming up too,
Yep.
So I won't really deep dive into that particular thing about what is being a ghost, but we will go into that here shortly. But the moral of the story is that so many of those setups are the exit strategy is not played out. Now, and I like to make comparisons to human situations. Just for the simple fact that I could sit here and tell you something, and you could be like, yep, I understand it. And then maybe later on down the line, well, wait a second. Now, what did he say? What is it? So I compare it to a situation, a real life situation I've had in the past. And this goes outside of hunting altogether. But it shows you the mindset of someone or something in how they think when there is time and ability to do so. And as anybody that has watched the show or the podcast or listened in the past, they know I'm prior military, but then it was prison. I worked in the prison for a career.
Thanks for clarifying working in the prison.
Working in a prison, yeah. Punch the time clock.
Yes.
I'm not on parole. All of that being said, I've seen some things play out in the prison system that parlays really well to this lesson. And what I mean by that is that a multitude of times I've seen, like, when an inmate gets in trouble while they're in the prison system, whatever. A lot of times they were getting sent to what they call segregation. Well, when you move them from one place to the next, you inventory their property box. Essentially, you open up the property box and you literally write out, check off every single thing that's in there. That way, because it gets put in storage,
Oh, okay. Yep.
until he gets out of solitary confinement or, the segregation unit or whatever. So it is another way of basically making certain that they don't have contraband and so on and so forth. But it also is giving accountability. The staff members take a look at it. They look at everything that's in there. They mark it all off, and then they show him what they have found in it. He can look through all of it. He or she, whatever, can look through all of it, and then they sign off on it and whatever. So, and then it goes into storage, and it's there until he's out, however long that is. So, in doing that inventory on gentlemen that have got in trouble in the past, we have found some alarming things. I mean, and when I mean alarming, it is actually scary at the details and the intricacies that these inmates have got. And where I'm headed with this is that they would, and I say they, I mean, I've probably seen 3 or 4 of these type portfolios that they make. And essentially, if you think about it, an inmate that is sitting in a prison system, what does he have to do? Pretty much nothing. watch some TV, play some cards, get his showers, make something to eat, whatever. But for the most part, he's an idle mind. And all I'm saying with that is in an effort for them to apply their mind somewhere, a lot of those people, they're convicted of crimes and so on and so forth. I'm not saying every one of them's wrong and sitting in there, but for the most part, they've been convicted. That being said, we found these binders, if you will, and they have got intricate details of multiple staff members. Some of them was singular staff members, or whatever, but they would have, I mean, their age, their birthdays, their spouses, their names, their birthdays, anniversaries, kids' names, kids' ages, addresses, you name it. And if you think about it, while he's sitting there, if he's doing a life sentence and you're a staff member, and I'm not saying that they got any of that information from the staff person.
Right.
They overhear. They're always listening. They're always observing. Right? Much the same as that mature whitetail. He is nonstop observing his surroundings. All things for him is about survival and procreation. That's it. There's nothing else. The survival, that leads into the food side and all of that stuff, but survival. You got to eat to survive. I mean, there's survival and there's procreation, but the survival part is the part we're talking about. That deer, if you are showing any flaws in the armor, so to speak, i.e. egress, ingress, foot traffic, all of those things, he is putting together a portfolio of you. He will learn you most of the time faster than you're ever learning him, and he will adjust accordingly. That being said, a hunter, in my opinion's most hunters' biggest flaw is their lack of thought process into the egress portion of this. Because you could get there clean, you could hunt it clean, and then when you go to leave, blow up 20 or 30 deer, even though the deer you're after is not on the field.
Right.
They all typically get blown right past him, or later on down the line, there's all of this alarmed deer situation. And then you go fast forward, you hunt that 2, 3, 4, 5 times, you started seeing 20, 25, 30 deer. The next time it was down. The next time it was down some more. And then by the 4th time that you hunt it, there's a doe and twins, and they're walking out there glaring through either where your stand was at or your blind was at. That is the epitome of hunting pressure. Now, and the deal is the reason that you're not seeing those deer anymore is the learned behavior. The learned behavior from that is there is a human hunting this. I'm going to avoid it. Now, they didn't learn that potentially off of your entrance. They didn't learn it necessarily while you were in the stand. They learned it when you was trying to leave. You're essentially showing them your bare butt, so to speak, because you're showing them where you're hunting, how you're getting there because you're leaving. You're laying a scent trail. So now that he knows that you've been there, at some point in time, he's going to investigate. Doesn't take very long. He knows what's up. So it will serve you well to pick out your exit route first. And in the inmate version of that, their attention to detail was alarming. And I mean alarming. They knew things they should never know. And again, those staff members, and almost ultimately there would be an investigation to that, because they want to know if this staff member is working in, some kind of conjunction with this inmate, if there's something nefarious going on. Usually that's never the case. But some of the portfolios that they had were the attention. I mean, every detail to that person's life that guy had.
Right.
And he might have picked it up 9 months ago that it was, some other staff member when I came in and said, "Hey man, happy birthday. I seen it was your birthday last night." Oh, that guy remembers that. Okay, down there. And he writes it down. He'd go back to his portfolio, write it down. And over the course of years or months, whatever, they were putting together this entire portfolio. And again, they're going to use that against you. And the theory here is he's going to take all of that and try to use that as leverage to gain some kind of advantage over you. And so it was an alarming thing to learn. But if you sit back and think about it in a commonsensical fashion, it makes sense.
Correct.
It makes sense. They are put into a position at which it behooves them. How do they get the tactical advantage? Well, they get the tactical advantage by learning everything about you. That is what that deer is doing. The same thing is that confined person inside a prison facility. He's trying to gain a tactical advantage for whatever might be the case. That deer is doing the same thing to you every moment of the day. He don't think about anything else. Yeah. Safety. He wants to keep that rack on his head and his hide around his butt. You know, so that's essentially what we're dealing with. And when we start delving into, okay, so how do I then do things to get a proper egress? Well, I mean, that's where the designing of your food plot or the designing or the location of the stand at which you hunt and your entrance and egress to that stand means everything. Now, if it is a high, let's say that stand is, you're like, man alive, this is a great stand. It is in a great position. But it's like that risk versus reward thing. Is the risk worth the potential reward? Or is the reward worth this potential risk? And there are some places that you're like, it's just so good. But, that we need to have a stand here. We need to have a blind here. But it is something you're like, okay, we need to get in here. We need to hang it. We need to trim it. We need to put up a camera, whatever we're going to do. And then we're going to get out and we're not going to see that. And that might be August.
Right.
July, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're out. You do not even so much as look in that direction again. Just leave it alone. And then season comes and you're like, okay, this is the best stand I got. I mean, I know. And you might be getting nighttime pictures of that deer too. The deer you're after, and you're like, well, I want to get it. Now, if you didn't properly choose your entrance and exit, so on and so forth, and get your egress, and typically I'm talking about food evening, so food plot or whatever, and where there are usually many loitering deer. And now you have to get out the back door, and there's lots of guys say, yeah, well, I pull out my coyote howler and then I howl and flush the deer. Well, don't get me wrong. That might be better than just being a human coming down. But what did you do? You literally flushed the field.
Yeah.
That is not a positive response.
Right.
They aren't positively responding to a coyote howl. Right. They're scared of the coyote howl.
Right.
You have flushed the deer.
Yeah.
You've sent them off to get you out of there. And
are you going to do it the next night?
And then,
or are you going to do it the next night after that? Are you going to?
And all of a sudden, they learn what's going on. And even if it was a little bit effective, let's say they run them off the field and they're standing, they go running just inside the timber. Well, it's low light. You can't see that well. They're 5 yards, 8 yards in the timber. You can't see them because it's black in there. You go to get down out of your tree or out of your blind, and they're sitting there watching you do it. You even think that you flushed it and you got out clean. But the reality is you didn't do that at all. Yeah. They're going to come investigate what's happening. Right. Now, the best plan B that I have found is a vehicle. Usually, if you're in that scenario and there is, a hunting buddy or a wife or whatever might be the case, I have found that using a vehicle, just stay in the stand, stay in the blind, whatever. Typically, I don't say typically, I think all the time, deer can't count. Vehicle comes in, flushes the field. You drive right to the base of the tree or the blind. They get down, get right into the vehicle. You drive off the field, get out of there. As soon as you're off the field, then you can make everything right, make yourself legal, before you get down or whatever. Make yourself legal. But I'm just saying, from up in the tree or the blind into the vehicle, you want that as fast as you possibly can and gone.
Correct.
Use the vehicle to flush it, get down, get in it, leave. Now, that is the best of the worst situation.
Right.
Ideally.
But you can't do that every day because then they won't come there, because we had that issue in Maryland. We had a stand that was like that. Yeah. And after you do it 3 or 4 times in a season, that food plot had no more. Yeah. And you used some Marine Corps shit on me. And I was like, you do what? And you're like, hey, this is what they taught us in the Marine Corps, is to look for a position where you can see everything, but nothing can see you. And I'm like, well, I was in the Air Force, so we were just 30,000 feet up dropping shit, So it seems simple, Mark. It seems very simple, but it is such an amazing concept to just look at your farm. If God has given you topography, all we did was move the stand from the middle of the field to the edge of the field where there was a 100-foot drop off behind it, and we could access that stand. Yeah. But I put my stand in the middle of that field. Why? Yeah. I don't know why I put it in the middle. I thought I'd see everything, I guess. I don't know. But that's why I have 0 and you have 21 booners. But the point is not, it's not really just about trying to get it. When you start driving in and out of there, you can't form that habit either, but you'll push them, so once or twice, you're going to get away with it for those key stands that only get,
Yeah.
But
so usually I pick the stand or the blind position first.
Yes.
Okay. And then design the plot and everything to that stand position. So my egress and ingress has been figured out before I even start the next portion of this. Because I want to choose my stand and plant to my stand, or choose my blind and plant to that. So when the shape and what is in those matter,
right?
But in this particular podcast, it's about the ingress and egress. But I'm just stating this because it's part of this. The design of the plot is affected by my ingress and egress from my stand or blind.
Right.
We'll never be 100%. Ultimately, something silly will happen. You get down out of your blind and you go to get on your e-bike or go to walk out or whatever and walk. Your kickstand makes a noise or something. I mean, or you snap a twig walking out. Whatever, whether you have a bike or not, doesn't matter. But I'm just simply stating that we can't be 100% all the time, but if we can be 90 or 95%,
right.
That old adage of the first time you hunt a stand is your best opportunity. And I will say, I've shot many of my deer on the first set. But like last year, my second deer I shot, that stand had probably been hunted, or that blind probably been hunted 6 or 7 or 8 times. Guess what? There was never a single deer ever blown out of that blind. Right. And there was 20 plus deer on that field multiple times when we go to leave. But because of the way we did our design and the way that we had that screened and the way we can get in and out, it's foolproof. You can leave that field with deer 40 yards away, and they, as long as you don't bang something getting out of the blind, they have no clue it even happened. And that is where I'm headed with this. Essentially, we're trying to hunt it like a ghost, and just saying the deer don't even know that we're doing it. They don't, in their mind, they are essentially living on a farm that is not even being hunted in their mind. That is the perfect scenario. Can we be that? Some farms, yes. Some farms really close. Some farms make it a little bit more challenging, you could say, to make that design, or to design it to where you can get it.
Right.
Because sometimes, maybe the area at which you can food plot, it's finite. It's this is what I have. I really can't make it anymore. We have to do the best with what we are left with what we have, Well, again, I'm not saying anything is, there's only one consulting client I've ever had. I looked at him and was like, we could do things, but I can't do anything for you here, because the problem with that particular farm, everything south used to be a preserve, but then it got so many deer, they opened it up and they were just, it was open to public, and they were just banging deer like it was going out of style on there, and it didn't even go against the state's tags, like it was extra tag, and the farm was basically like an L. And the top corner of the L was what attached to the road. And he had owned 40 acres more on the end of that L. that whole L was timber. So that whole farm was timber, except for the very far edge of the L that butted up against the what was a preserve, and the neighbor to the east. And the neighbor to the east, he'd sold 40 acres of that farm to that neighbor to the east. I don't know why he did it, and he said he don't know why. He doesn't know why he did it. But the moral of the story is that he gave that guy in contract rights, like an easement through his farm to reach that 40. That guy owned a lot more ground that butted up to his 40 on the other side. He had access already.
Yeah.
So it didn't really make sense to give him that, but maybe that's what he had to do to get the deal done. I don't know. But that guy drove through him every single day. Was a retired guy. He drove through him. So the neighbor drove through the center of the property, through the timber, following a ridge, all the way through the farm out to the other side. So he was just boning them nonstop. And then what was a preserve went to public whatever. So,
Yeah.
and the food, and mind you, usually one of the first things I do in a consult is we go around the entire outside edge. Right. I want to know who the guys that are fence sitting. I want to know. I don't ever want to design a plan that the neighbor gets to benefit off of my client's time, money, efforts, all of those things. I can't design something if I'm not. I could. You don't want to design something that you don't have all of the information. If I've only got part of the information, then I'm not complete. So the very first thing is I go around the entire outside edge because I want to know who's sitting right on the fence. Who are my hunters? Who is going to potentially gain and or hurt your hunting as well. And then do your entrance and egresses from that. Well, this particular guy all the way over there, he had 5 acres that he could have planted, roughly 5 acres. It butted up to the neighbor to the east, and the guy that was to the east was literally going to have to drive through his food plot every day. He was going to his thing, and then there were stands all along the fence on the south line, right on it, that was public, that they could shoot as many deer as they wanted. I'm like, listen, there's no way we can put any food here. Right. There's no way to be clean. There's so many outside factors into this that no matter what we do, we can't be good here. I'd suggest getting a really good logger in here, log it, and I'd probably sell it. And then find you one that you can be a little more control of.
But I assure you that farm was sold turnkey.
Oh,
because that's what they say.
I'm sure.
But if a farm doesn't have access,
yeah,
and I mean bulletproof access, it's not turnkey.
Correct.
So what everybody calls turnkey is where I think a lot of hunters get frustrated. They come out, they see a listing, it's turnkey hunting farm. Look at the deer pictures. And they're like, oh, it's fantastic. But it was set up by somebody who put a box in the middle of the field like me, but it's turnkey. There's a box mine for you to hunt. That's not a turnkey farm. So when we say those things, I think about like that farm got sold to somebody else, and somebody else is going to have to deal with that problem, right? Yeah. But when you're looking at a farm, the most important thing to you is access. Number one.
100%. 100%. Because if you don't have access, there's so many
times. Doesn't matter what's on the farm.
There's so many times you find a killer place to hunt, and you're like, okay, A, where do I put my wind?
Mm-hmm.
And B, how do I access this?
Right.
And if neither one of those are foolproof, then I'm not willing to do it. It's not worth, back to this risk versus reward. The risk far outweighs the reward. But where I was headed with this earlier too, though, is let's just say that we are limited, finite spot at which we got to have our food. Well, I'd rather have food than not have food. So now we're making the best of the worst situation.
Right.
We got to have food. So then the next order of business is you're like, okay, well, the risk is fairly high, but the reward could possibly be also very high. And this is where I see a ton of people fail themselves as well. When you have that situation in play, we make the best of the situation we have, but then going from there, you might be getting pictures of your big dog, and he's coming in there after dark a lot and whatever. But again, it's a somewhat high risk spot. and we've set ourselves up, we've got it all set up, and we're not going in there right now. But then season comes, and then here's season. It's going, and you're getting these pictures of them. You're like, man, it's a perfect wind tonight. I should go in, and so on and so forth. Well, this is the part of the egress and so on and so forth that I think is needs to be stated. There are those situations, there are those farms where that situation plays out. One of them's our 160 lease. We can only put food where we can put it. There's 6 acres of soybeans in the bottom. It's not my ideal. It's not.
Right.
But we then went through, think tanked, if you will, decided our entrance and egress, and we can drop into a creek, in a low water creek, a couple of 100 yards away, and we can walk the base of that creek all the way up and bump right up in the back of the blind. I think that is the best way to hunt it. But here's the thing. It's a high risk spot. It's also a high reward spot. It isn't a killer where the field gets bottlenecked bad. It's a killer spot.
Yeah.
But where a lot of people fail themselves is they get so geeked up about that spot. They're like, well, I'm going to go in and hunt it. I'm going to hunt it this one time. Then I'm going to, I seen 20 deer. Well, I'm going to hunt it again. Maybe not the deer that you want, has showed up yet. You're getting pictures of him on camera and all that. And it's really hard to have that killer spot in the killer area with killer deer hitting it and then say, nope, I am not going in there till it's right, till the indicators are such, in the financial world, you're always like, I need 2 green days. On the 3rd green day, I might go make a purchase and try that, What my point with this is, I need green days. I need, go for him. I would like to have 2, to say, okay, you'll see it. You'll
daylight.
You'll see,
go.
9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then a couple days later, 10, couple days later, 9, couple days later, 7:45, couple days later, 5:45. Now it's right after dark, type thing.
Yep.
Go. Now he's told me that his testosterone level or whatever's going on is he's slowly getting more and more and more and more to where I'm saying that he's willing to daylight to that spot. Until those indicators have clicked off, I'm going to set on my hands. I'm going to stay on the bench. I want it because less is more in the big deer world. Yeah. If you're just wanting to go kill a deer or a buck, then go. Yeah. But if you're wanting to kill that deer, that specific deer, you need to set back and let him tell you when it's time to go.
Right.
So that means, case in point's that deer right there. October 28th, first hunt.
Yeah.
He was being hunted pretty hard by 2 other people.
27 days.
For 27 days, and I still didn't go in after him. And I think the previous episode, maybe, but I was talking about human pressure. I utilized that human pressure to create that funnel that caused, as well as the funnel that I already had.
Right.
But I expected their pressure moved him to where I wanted him to be. And then if he was where I wanted him to be, then my funnel and my stand location was dynamite.
Once that wind, the day,
once the wind, the day, and the deer have all told me that systems are go, then I'll go.
Pressure was applied.
Pressure was applied.
Green. Yep. 1 day sit. Yep.
Cold front, day after cold front. Everything was systems go. So I went in, and that's how it played out.
Yeah. And I don't want to stop you. Like we talk about this a lot, you and I, and for the listeners and the viewers, Mark and I ride together every day. Every day we're at a farm. Every day we're observing. Since October 1st, I think we've been in the woods 3 days.
Probably.
And 2 of them were observation sits, So we're, it's mid-October and we have some of the most, we have spots where you can have deer 6 feet away from you and they don't know you're there. And when you can do that and you can get out of there, like I just want to go watch, but we try to stay off of those farms. So it's really hard to do, but it's very hard as a guy with 0 booners to watch people on TV have a show and they're showing you how to hunt. And then I see that they TSI'd a hillside. And then the bottom of the TSI'd hillside where you just said, we got Jack Houston. Everything that's TSI'd moved all those deer from one farm to another. So you just moved all your deer on the farm above your food plot. Food to bed, really close. But then they go put a stand in the middle of the field with no way to get in and out of it. So you spent hours and hours of doing all this stuff. And if I'm at home and I don't know any better, if I didn't know Mark, I would think that that was the right thing to do, because this particular hunter is sponsored by all these people and they have a show and they must be doing it the way. It's wrong. And it's as wrong as it can be. And it drives me nuts. But this is really why we felt like, hey, if we just take all the bullshit away, there's no money. Let's just talk like money corrupts everything. If we could just talk to a Mark and say, you killed 21 booners on permission pieces, right? Or one unowned, 20 on permission. If we could just get it straight from you without advertisers and money in between it, you would never allow that setup. You would never set a farm up to do that. And
you
when
set
I
yourself
watch
up
it,
for failure.
Correct.
So it's all about, I can appreciate the TSI and the effort at which you're trying to create bedding. Mm-hmm. But what you did is you created the best bedding that is now looking over the top of the plot. So again, going back to the inmate world of things, everything he does is to gain a tactical advantage. Well, you gave him now bedding that he can lay there. Elevated, bird's eye view. And can look down on your plot and watch you walk across that thing. How often do you think you're going to see him on his feet before dark? Not going to happen. Sorry. Yeah. And per your own design, per that design, I'm saying, you did it to yourself.
Absolutely.
It's 100%, you self-sabotaged your opportunities of actually shooting the deer. Because you now have brought all of those deer to bed right there directly above that plot, and they are watching you do it. And it's a, and I'm going to use this term loosely, quote unquote, professional hunter that is telling you how to hunt, that is doing it. And here's the thing. You don't have to believe me. Go watch the shows. Go watch it. Go watch these guys go get in their blinds and their stands that's right there, especially the blinds, that are right in or on the food, and it's exposed to the food plot. And then when they go to get out of that blind or stand, they come down that steps and they've done nothing to block.
Right.
The moment I see that, all credibility's out. Anything you got to tell me after that, you've lost me. You've lost me.
Right. But as a hunter at home, right? There's no, you're forced to watch. We all want to see big deer, so we want to watch hunting shows and we want to support hunters. And we're not, we started talking about hunters supporting hunters, and I'm not trying to throw shade on them. No, yeah. It's just they're setting a piss poor example for the world to see.
It's literally the premise of this exact podcast.
Right. Let's just cut to the chase and say, hey, if you see that, and hopefully you've listened to enough of these podcasts, you should start questioning some of this yourself, where you're like, oh, wow, look at that. There are some things I've sent Mark a text at 1:00 in the morning. I'm like, you're not going to believe what, screenshot and stuff. This is insane, and I didn't want to get off on a tangent, about it, but it is so important to the way you established our farms. It's so important that, on 52 acres in Illinois, if we did that there'd be no deer on one of our best farms.
Well,
right?
Look at it like this. To your point, prior to you knowing me and hunting the way that I do and the way that you now do, prior to that, how many times, and you didn't just hunt Maryland and just hunt West Virginia or whatever. You hunted in Illinois. You hunted in Kansas. You had, Ohio. And like you've hunted all over. You were hunting, whether it be with a guide or an outfitter or a leaser, whatever. Yeah. All I'm saying is that you hunted other than there. Right. Other than over there. All of that being said, per sit in a tree, how often did you see a mature deer versus today when you go hunt? How often per sit do you see a mature deer. I'm not saying it's a
Yeah.
shooter, but I'm talking about an age class deer that will even include 4-year-old, but
Yeah.
usually north of 4-year-old, but 4-year-old or older deer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll leave that because we haven't talked about this.
Yeah, we haven't.
So I'll just leave that question out to you.
So the first 50 years of my life, I'd say 3. I've seen 3. I shot the big 8. It was an old deer.
Yeah.
I shot one that I lost in Illinois, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I filmed one with Tino where he was so excited I almost had to kick him out of the tree because he couldn't believe the deer was coming. And I'm like, "Can you pull it together?" And he's shaking. Oh my god! Oh my god! Like, but that previously to knowing you, that was the biggest deer I'd ever seen in a field. Now, every single hunt I go, I see mature deer or I see nothing, and I'm okay seeing nothing. Because that's not what I'm looking for. If he shows up, we did observation sets, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, we're waiting on a special deer. We're waiting on this deer, that deer. But I mean, it's, I think it's pretty cool when you're talking about a 30-acre farm that had a booner shot on it last year, that has another booner this year, and it'll probably have another booner the following, right? But we don't ever step foot on that farm, and you have designed that access extensively. We put a bunch of the miscanthus and stuff in it this year, so it'll be even better. So once you decide how to get in and out, then you lay out your food. That makes it way easier on the new farms when we develop them because all of that forethought is into that farm before we ever say, yes, we want to buy it.
And that's the thing, when you talk about when people talk about turnkey farm, realtors and again, I'm not casting shade on anybody, but
Sure.
Turnkey isn't, my version of turnkey and the loose term that's being thrown around there all the time,
Right,
is not the same. Just because there's some food plots planted in a tree stand or two, that isn't turnkey.
Yeah.
That's, roughly done at best.
Yeah. If you put 5 stands, you go to any sportsman place, you buy 5 cheap stands, you throw them up on a farm, and you put a box blind you buy on Facebook Marketplace. That doesn't make a farm turnkey, right? Yeah. But it's being sold to you as turnkey. Yeah. So
and that word that coin phrase is constantly being thrown out there, and it's like
maybe
for me, it's a
word
little cringeworthy.
It's ready to hunt.
Yeah.
Are you going to shoot monsters on it or whatever? Who knows? But it's ready to hunt.
Yeah.
But it's not a turnkey. A turnkey farm. We can show you.
I can take you to the 154 right now and show you a turnkey farm.
Correct.
The day that we decide that we're going to sell that farm,
yeah.
I assure you that if it isn't a tire kicker, that the very first person that shows up to that farm will buy it. There's no doubt in my mind.
No, 100%.
You will shoot.
Yeah.
Every mature deer that you want to shoot on that farm.
Yeah, we had 3 of Land Guy's biggest realtors out at that farm. They wanted to go turkey hunt, and we're like, yeah, go hunt the farm. And they were jaw dropped before it was developed.
Yeah, before it was finished. Yeah.
They were like, how did you find this? Like, and it's, we where Mark takes us, we go. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to digress there, but I thought it was important for people at home. It's like, hey, why am I listening to this? If you're listening to us for an hour, we're trying to give you this information, and we have to fight what you're seeing every day, right? We all like to watch big deer, and when you start watching these shows, there's just so many things that it's cringeworthy at times. So I wanted to stop and say, hey, look, this is why maybe what you hear us saying is different than what you see, but the reason is because you don't know if they're leasing 3,000, 4,000, 10,000 acres to make that show. Yep. We're hunting 30 acres like you would. We're hunting, we have a booner on my 30. We have a booner on the 86, which is almost a 200. Yeah. I mean, we have my third target deer
on 52.
On 52 acres. So you combine them all together, and it's less than 170 acres, 3 farms.
Yeah.
But those farms are bulletproof to Mark standards, and the other piece of egress is we have to use bikes. We have to use a bike to keep our feet off the ground.
Yeah. We use e-bikes, and here's the thing. I mean, a mountain bike is the same. I mean, as long as your feet are not walking on that dirt, and leaving ground scent that's being drug along weeds and whatever, or grinding, grass and stuff into the ground. Because a lot of people don't understand that even if let's. I don't want to say that you're scent free, but let's just say that you was scent free. A deer that's tracking just like a dog. A dog, a bloodhound per se. If you're running a trail or they're trying to track a convicted convict that escaped, whatever. When it's going, even if they was scent free per se, every time they step on grass, when you go to push off and stuff, you're grinding grass and stuff in the ground, twisting it, and that makes smell. For lack of a better analogy here, just think about what your yard smells like once you've cut your lawn. Okay, now that's how the deer smells that with just you grinding a little spot on the grass.
Right.
I mean, and actually probably stronger.
Right.
But my point with that is to him, you might as well hit him in the face with your hand. He's going to smell that, and it doesn't matter how good. I'm not saying don't go through a scent eliminating process, because it might give you an extra second or something, and maybe that second's worth it. I'm more than willing to say, yeah, follow that program, but I'm also willing to look you right in the eyes and say, if he's downwind of you and the thermals aren't such that he can't get your nose, you're getting smelled. And that's how this works. I mean, that's just how it is. And the sooner you realize that, the better off you are.
Right. I leave just like this.
Yep.
I will wear this exact outfit, walk in the stand, because we know the wind. We know the winds we can hunt them in. We know the blinds. We know the blinds are scent proof, and we know our egress is bulletproof, and we're on a bike. So we don't have to buy scent lock. We don't have to do all those things. Could it help you? Yeah, maybe it helps you,
Yeah.
But it's not a necessity. And so I chose to not use it at all this year, just because I think it'll show people, like, if your stuff is right, you don't need hokey stuff.
And going on with the subject that we were on here too, if the risk versus reward is close, I'm saying if we're on that finite, dead set place that we had to put the food plot because that's the only place we could, whatever. And if it is a kind of a higher risk spot, then I always say, listen, it could be a killer spot that is going to kill the deer. Just leave it alone. Just don't go to it in any way, shape, or form. Just let it marinate until the time is right. And then you roll in there on the day after a good cold front and say October 25th to 31st, odds are you smash him the first time you go in. And now all of a sudden the reward is he's been moving around during daylight some. He's been hitting this plot. There's a lot of deer hitting this. None of them has felt human pressure at all season long. Nobody's been in there messing with them. They're comfortable. Yeah. And that's why I always say, if you go if I went and sat on your couch today, you're going to know it. Yeah, I'm in your living room, I'm in your house. I'm going to know it. You're going to know it. But would you know it if I was hiding behind the back door? Probably not going to know that. That is how we got to live in and around this mature deer's area. Yeah. We need to be the person hiding behind the back door. I don't want to go into his house. I don't want to go sit in his living room. I don't want to do all that because he knows he has the tactical advantage on you. Yeah. You are not getting in there doing that. Yeah. So I choose to wait, let outside pressures do their due. That's part of the game. That's part of the situation. Let those outside pressures, change the course of his every day to your core, where your plot is. Now it's a waiting game. All I need to do is be let known that he's willing to daylight. And then I choose my fronts and the weather pattern and such that provides me the wind that I need, that he feels is right for him too. So it's right for both of us. I'll slide in. Usually first or second hunt, you have a dead deer. And that is the game, as far as the egress is concerned. Right. But you could be foolproof in your entrance. You could be foolproof while you're in your stand. You could be foolproof, where your wind is blowing while you're in your stand. And if you haven't bulletproofed your egress, you've got about 4 or 5 hunts and it's done. It's done. Your opportunities to kill the deer you're after is now in the single digits below. Let's just say that no, you haven't been on the farm. You're at 100. By the time you hunt it 4 or 5 times and you've educated all those deer and you haven't got the deer you're after,
they patterned you.
all of a sudden they all know you. They
Their
all
life
know
depends
you.
on knowing.
And your ability to shoot him now, you've done ruined your opportunities for your lack of, and again, this is not me getting on anybody. This is just me making a statement. For lack of patience to letting him tell you that this high risk spot is ready to be hunted. If you just like, man, I know that's a good spot, and you talk yourself into going and doing what you know you shouldn't be doing yet, because he hasn't given you that sign that this is going to take place.
Right.
Could it happen? Sure. Are your odds of it happening way less than probably had you waited till the timing was right? Absolutely. Also, sure. So it's, when I always say less is more in the big deer world, I would rather cherry pick the key days that I can get in there and hunt my best spots in the best opportunities,
right,
to keep that fresh and go from there.
Yeah.
But the moment you are like, gosh, man, that's a good spot. I think I could get in there and get him done before he's even told you that he's willing to do that.
Right.
You do that 2 or 3 or 4 times, odds are you're going to end the season without killing.
So one of the things, Mark, that you do that was unique to me, and I had never seen anybody do before that I like, I'd never seen anybody do it, is the direction where the deer is going to come from, because that's why we're hunting that wind. Okay, so once you have that lesson, which was, I believe, is episode 3, where we talk about quartering into the wind, how the deer are going to utilize that farm. Mark is looking in the direction of where he expects the deer to come from the bedroom to, the trap is set. And Mark will look at that trap, and let's say legal shooting hours, we were hunting and it was 7 o'clock. And Mark looks at it and says, hey, listen, it's 6:50. There's not a deer in front of us. They cleared out of here. And if he came right now, we wouldn't be legal, so let's leave. It's okay. I think as a hunter, I always felt like my greatest chance was in those last 3 minutes of legal light, so I never would leave a minute before our legal shooting light was done. But learning from you of like the importance of getting out. Hey, today wasn't the day. Let's get out of here right now, because even if he shows up, you can't legally shoot him. Let's leave right now while we don't see anything and we can get out clean. And that was another, I just thought that was a really important tactical lesson.
Well, that's a very good point. I'd like to elaborate on that a little bit too. Sure. More often than not, and this is going into the ingress and egress side of things, more often than not, like in the mornings, there's a lot of the hunters that I deal with, they're like, listen, I like being in there 45 minutes before daylight or 30 minutes before daylight. And and I'm not saying that that's wrong or right or wrong, but it's circumstantial, or I say circumstantial, it's situational, I should say. But a lot of times in my area of the world, it's, there's a lot of ag, and if you've followed along with the show, you find out that I like being out in the prairies where, usually there's nobody around me very much for that, for the most part. But it's a lot of ag. So guess what? Deer can see you for a long way, and most often you have to come across ag fields, where in the middle of the night, you're not seeing them. You can't see them. So you go try to get in there and you blow up deer you can't see. Well, you're not going to shoot the deer that you blew up on your way in, usually speaking. So I've learned that the best way of doing things is I usually get to my area, get changed, get ready, get all packed up, whatever. And I sit there and wait till gray daylight. And I'll sit there with binoculars and let that field clear of deer completely. And then I'll make my move right across the field, right into my pinch, up into it, blowing my wind back across the field. Now, for the most part, I can reasonably assume that my wind is safe. Safe. It's across the ag field. Yeah, that's not an evening spot. Now, so I don't think a lot of deer are going to go out to that open area and loiter, so to speak, and be out there just mulling around. Usually mornings, they tend to stick to cover, travel corridors, and that's what you're dealing with. So I'll wait till gray daylight, watch with the binoculars, vet it, make certain it's clear of deer. Then I zip across the field up into my stand. Did I lose 10 to 15 minutes of shooting time? Sure, I did. Yes. But now ask me how many of those deer that I shot in that time frame, that I have on the wall. None of those were inside that first few minutes, and rarely in the very last few. And I think me leaving a little bit early kind of started more whenever it was filming all of the time with juries or Legends of the Fall or whatever. You lose camera light before legal shooting light even ends.
Yep.
So, and if you shoot a deer that's not on camera, so to speak, well, did it happen? Well, legally tag-wise, yeah, it happened. But I'm saying if you're trying to produce a television show or if you're trying to, whatever like that, there's no footage that you could use because it was too dark. So it's not worth shooting the deer then. So we would just start packing up right as we would ask the cameraman, whoever was the cameraman at the time, hey, what do you got for legal shooting light? And they adjust the gain and the white balance and everything and try to see how much, daylight they can draw into there and see how it's good, and then when that was too dark to shoot, we were done. Usually that's 5 to 8 minutes before legal shooting light even ends. But it's something we did. Well, found out that we tend to bump less deer when that happens, when we're trying to get out. So now when it gets real close and you do, I've been filming you, the moment I say, okay, it's too dark for me to put quality footage on the ground, bam, we wrap up, get out of Dodge before the deer we're after does show up and we don't want to bump him. So again, it's playing the long game. It's like, investing or compound interest or whatever. Yeah, there's some stuff, investment and or investment of your time or whatever that you have to put in on this, but the reward can be huge comparatively. A perfect example is say Aussie. Opening day, the wind was wrong, got blown up. It's really hard to say, hey, we got to go. But we backed out. But it was for the betterment of the long game.
Right.
I could have stayed.
Right.
But 50-50, because I was pretty certain he was coming daylight.
Yeah.
50-50 on whether he would have smelled me or all of these other deer that ended up hitting the field would have smelled me before he shows up.
Right.
So, and the right move was to bail. Did he show up there before dark that day? Absolutely.
Right.
But he also showed up before dark the next day when I was in there and no deer could blow me up and the wind was perfect. So, and everybody did their job but me that day. But I'm just saying that take your time. When it's a high risk spot, set it all up, because if that's what you got, that's what you got. Set it all up. And then just avoid the area like it's the plague until one of your shooters has said, now's the time to go, and then choose your day according to that.
Yes.
And then dip in. And that is the best way to make the best of a spot that you don't have control. If you have control over it and you can design it and set it up to where you're foolproof, absolutely go for it. Again, we still do it sparingly. I mean, to your point there earlier on the 30, you're like, listen, we get out early, or we get out early when it's not right and he's not there and whatever. We're still doing that, and we have foolproof entrance and exit.
Correct.
Because why risk it?
Right. Yeah,
there's no need.
Knock your bike over. You could slap your bow. Like,
trust
stuff
me,
happens.
if it could go wrong, it's happening. Trust me when I say that. So I just learn from those mistakes and so on and so forth, and then hopefully, we can help you improve that learning curve to where you don't make those mistakes. learn from mine.
Yeah.
I'll tell you all about them.
Yeah.
I'll make fun of myself. I promise. Because trust me, if there's a mistake that could be made, I've probably made it. I've probably made it. I just got to learn from it. You know, that's the thing. Learn from the mistakes, identify it for what it is, and then adjust accordingly. And
well, when we talk about egress, that's what we wanted to bring this episode to you. Just really talking about getting in, getting out, bulletproof every time. A lot of things we use is switchgrass. We find deer are not bedding in switchgrass. Mark has me mow. We mow trails. They're not direct trails. They're not one way. They're zigzagged. Why? So they can't see down it. I mean, everything is really thought out, and it's wide. So when we're riding the bikes, we're not catching our scent on things that are touching us. So it's really a methodical look to our farms, and there'll be more video to follow on some of that. But
well, you've seen how I get. And it's pretty funny because you coined a phrase. You said Mark's got into 200 mode. Mm-hmm. So on the 86 farm,
yes,
that deer. I want to see you shoot that deer so bad, but where it's exciting, you got to see. You got a special glimpse, something you hadn't got to see.
I hadn't seen that before.
No. when I get into, like when we got a really big one, yes. I want every I dotted. I want every T crossed. I'm going to go through it in the most methodical manner possible to try to get us there. And we went there to do the final touch-ups.
Yes.
And
tractor never stopped running.
You seen me in straight up 200
It
mode.
was awesome, man. It was awesome. So, I'm telling you, man, I hope in your life you have a farm like this and you've done a consult with Mark and you have a bit like you just got a 200 and you call him up and be like, hey, I got a big boy. Let's tighten this thing up. And to watch him in 200 mode was a sight to see.
It's pretty fun, but that's what trips my trigger. You know what I mean? That's the part. I don't have to be the one to shoot it. As long as it's a buddy of mine that's in it, and I've been a part of so many more really big deer passing away outside of my own personal, tag.
Sure.
I'm saying, but that kind of thing, that type of deer.
Yeah.
Just sends me into the next mode. I'm saying, I want not one hair is going to be out of place.
Right.
So the trap is completely set.
Yep.
And then we're biding our time.
We're just watching.
Letting him tell us it's time to go. And then we're going to go. Yeah. And then good Lord willing, we're going to put a 1.
21 to 1?
Or a 2 or a 3 on your number.
It'd be pretty nice.
And then there will be an asterisk, hopefully, that has a crooked number on the front of that. So the crooked numbers are awesome. So, but I feel really confident. I feel really confident that we're going to get our opportunities in the setups we got because we've thought our way through them. And hopefully we've brought or are bringing those tips, tricks, and so on and so forth to everybody here. Again, we're hiding nothing. Right. I'm gonna talk about everything that we do and take as much or as little of it as you want and apply it yourself. And if you got questions, ask them. Our plans are going forth is we'll try to take some of your questions, as we can, and we just might do 2 or 3 or 4 minute clips and answer them and go on about our day. So hopefully if you got questions or subject matter that you want to hear about,
put them in the comments.
Yeah. We're in.
Yeah, and if you want to see Mark kill that big 8, just feel free to put that in the comments because he keeps using those tags. Just means there's better selection for me late season. So if you got my back, keep telling Mark to shoot that big 8. He's got 27-inch beams, Mark. So thank you guys.
Pretty nice deer. I got to be honest.
Thanks for following. Thanks for subscribing. YouTube, like and subscribe. Lessons from the Woodlot. You're entered to win the farm for free. We'll see you next week. Good luck in the field.